The South African cross-country mountain bike championships are hosted at the revamped Thaba Trails, which is alongside the Thaba Lifestyle Eco-Village in Kliprivier, just north of Johannesburg city centre. The title sponsors were Balwin Properties, and the 2 days of racing included the battle for the honour of becoming the cross-country national champion across all age groups, as well as for the first time a short-track national championships on Sunday. The event was hosted by Gauteng MTB under the auspices of Cycling South Africa, whose mountain bike commissioner, Paula Damilano, welcomed the riders.
SA Camps is here, the biggest event we've ever had in the history of cycling in SA.
First to race were the young men, a big group of sub-junior boys charging away from the start. These were 13 to 14-year-olds who did 3 laps of the demanding full Xco course measuring 4.2 kilometers. The skill and speed of the top riders saw most avoid the B lines and take the more technical A lines. The 14 and 15-year-old youth boys did 4 laps of the track. In both age groups there were over 35 riders, which is a testament to the hard work being done by Cycling South Africa's Schools Commission, as well as by the schools around the country and their enthusiastic parents in supporting mountain biking as a sport. Zandre Pretorius from Gauteng had taken a fall, bravely soldiering on to the finish. Tristan McGibbon won the sub-junior boys title, and Sam Cleary from the Western Cape was the youth winner by just under a minute from KZN's Joshua Paul.
I was second into the single track and managed to get past the first guy on the single track, and then just made a gap and continued making it bigger and just held my pace. It was fun, yeah.
The conditions for racing were absolutely perfect in Gauteng as the elite women lined up for their 6-lap race. Among the smiling starters were Amy Wakefield, Lahani Oosthuizen and the defending champion Candice Lil. It was a small field of 7 riders who responded to Commissaire Dion Stein's whistle and surged away. Riding the first elite nationals was Rimeri Sutton, last year's under-23 champion. The course, designed by Thaba Trails' Wendell Bowl, was 4.2 kilometers long with 190 meters of climbing per lap. The start loop took them over 2 specially constructed Balwin bridges and past the Balwin Properties Lifestyle Centre on tar before they headed onto the rocky Kliprivier hills, where the climbing began in earnest as they hit the dirt. A small field of riders lined up for the 5 laps of the under-23 women's race, with Andrea Schoffman, a former junior champion, in the mix, as well as last year's junior winner Tyler Jacobs. Very soon the course was packed with riders as the sub-junior women, the juniors, sub-vets, vets and masters got going. A total of 66 women all told, ranging in age between 13 to 50 years old. The juniors did 4 laps, the sub-juniors 2, the other age groups doing 3 each. Lillian Baber won the juniors, Erin Mackeridge the youth women, and Madison Bateson the sub-junior girls. Western Cape's Andrea Schoffman made a good start in the under-23s. Candice Lil was the leading elite woman through the rocks, with Amy Wakefield just behind her. Candice, in the bright colours of Seattle Coffee Roller Toyota King Price, was in top form. She and Amy had led the Absa Cape Epic for 5 days until day 6 mechanical woes scuppered their hopes. The highly experienced Lil, with many years of cross-country racing in the World Cup behind her, was super smooth on the rocky terrain. 2 others from the Western Cape, under-23 Schoffman and Wakefield, were equally at ease as they flew down the trail. Lil Lowe was the class act as she put time into her rivals lap after lap, at times anything between 17 minutes 14 seconds and 17:40. No other elite was within a minute of her lap times. JBA Trek rider Lahani Oosthuizen, also from the Cape, was in 5th place. Rimeri Sutton, an impressive debut in the elite, she was in 4th, as Lil powered ahead. Amy Wakefield of E4.net in 2nd place had recovered from the nasty gash to her left bicep she suffered at the Epic. She climbed past sub-vet Kirsten Matikot. Amy is a former national marathon champion, but has dabbled in cross-country racing over the years. She rode the Stellenbosch World Cup in 2018 and is a highly skilled technical rider. Tyler Jacobs was a prolific winner in the junior ranks and now rides for Computer Mania in the under-23s. She had taken the lead as well. Lil continued to give everything in the elites as she opened up a big gap to the chasers. This is a big year for the 31-year-old as she eyes a season on the UCI World Cup circuit, where she'll have the honour of wearing the South African champion's jersey once again. After a dominant ride at Thaba Trails, she won by just under 9 minutes from Amy Wakefield.
It was a hard race. Thaba Trails is always known for the hot, dry, dusty, tricky trails. But yeah, my plan was, I had a plan that I wanted to execute and I think I did it quite well, so I'm happy. I'm actually preparing for a European season, so I leave the 4th of May and I'm going to race all the World Cups and some other European races, so this was perfect prep.
We're basically the custodians of cycling in South Africa, so anything related to cycling will go through Cycling South Africa, from absolute beginners all the way up to top elite riders. The top riders are absolutely important for us, but it's just as important in Cycling South Africa that we're bringing the Sprogs, the nippers, the sub-juniors, the youth, the juniors, and all the way up to the elites. Let's not forget the grandmasters that are always here supporting us, and the masters, sub-vets and vets, they're also around, they're also just as important. We want to give as many riders as possible the ability to progress and to grow in the sport.
And it was wonderful to see such big fields for the Sprog and Nipper races. The Nippers were 8 to 10 years of age and the Sprogs 11 to 12. The 25 Sprog boys and 17 Sprog girls did 4 laps of the shorter A-loop that excluded the big rock gardens and technical difficulties. The Sprog winners were Brant du Plessis and Leila de Oliveira. Daniel Woods and Heli van Heerden won the Nipper races. Then it was time for the elite men's race.
Feeling good. It's a nice venue. The guys from Balwin Sport upgraded the venue very nicely. So it pulls a great crowd and the course is good. So racing will be good and I think it's a fun day out for everyone.
Yeah, all good. Just fresh off altitude camp in Windhoek. Altitude is quite high here as well. Hopefully the training has paid off. Hopefully it wasn't too much training. Let's see. It's always a fun race. National champs got a lot to fight for. Obviously, national champion is a big thing. Always a great word on the global stage. So I'm gonna fight my hardest for it today, and hopefully all goes to plan.
A classy field of 11 of the best elite cross-country races in the land blazed away from the start on the first of 6 laps of the demanding track. Each lap would take them anything between 14 and 16 minutes to complete, making up 27 kilometers in distance with just shy of 1,000 meters of climbing. All done at high intensity. This is a brutal form of the sport. 28 under 23 men from 8 provinces set off on their 5-lap race a few minutes after the elites. Philip Bass led Alan Hathley in the elite men, followed by Arnaud du Toit. The track was dry and dusty, making for tricky conditions. But these highly skilled riders dealt with it without any issues at all. Bass was looking to defend the title he won in Bloemfontein a year ago in the absence of Hathley. The pair were inseparable over the first few laps. In fact, just 1 second was all that split them after 2. Hathley is in full prep mode ahead of the first round of the UCI World Cup in Novo Mesto in the Czech Republic in a month's time. Unlike Bass, he did not race the Absa Cape Epic, where Bass and his partner Alex Miller finished 8th, preferring to focus on Xco racing at the start of the year. Pretoria resident Bass was clearly feeling strong in the thin Gauteng air. Hathley tellingly out of the saddle on the climb. Insect Science's Arnaud du Toit was holding on to 3rd place. Pamphapieces Unati Ngumalo was just ahead of Michael Foster, Bass's Tiger Eurosteel teammate. Let's get on board behind Bass and Hathley as they nail the technical descent at the super high speed. In the junior men's race, Ernest Roots from the Northwest was the man in charge. They did 4 laps and he was on fire already. Marcy Ambrosi and the defending champion Justin Swanepoel were a few seconds behind him. Roots though put 22 seconds into his rivals in the opening lap. The track was a blaze of dust and rocks as the riders thundered around. Holding nothing back, this was the race that everyone wants to win. Johan van Zyl of Computer Mania won a highly competitive under-23 race ahead of Luke Moyer and Jaden Turlo. In the elite men's race, Bass had managed to take time out on Hatherley on laps 3, 4, 5 and 6. On board his locally made Paiga Mobu, he handled the rough, loose terrain with class, skill and speed. Cannondale Factory Racing's Hatherley had not lost an elite championship race in 5 years, but he was second best at Thaba Trails this year as he struggled to stay with the super consistent pace of the now 4-time champion Philip Bass.
I was really surprised. Alan is probably one of the faster guys in the world, so it's always a privilege, racing against him. You can gauge yourself on a really high level, and I actually didn't want to be at the front just to check things out, but after lap 3 I thought, okay, this is not a bluff anymore, so on one section I got a small gap and then pushed it a little bit, and then it was just a gradual gap that grew from there. When you're at the front, there's a lot of motivation, and you sort of engage your effort, so your lines become a lot more neater and a lot more controlled. So I think that's where you don't get stronger, but you get smoother throughout the race. Yeah, it's a real privilege to take the title again.
Yeah, Phil took control early on and set a really high pace. Obviously, he was having a good day. Just came off an altitude camp and kind of thought that would help me with preparations, but maybe bit off a bit more than I could chew and paid the bill today. Obviously, it's quite high, as you mentioned, 1,600 meters. Felt like 3,000 meters for me. It was no easy way around the course, and I just couldn't really answer to Phil's high pace today, and happy for him that he managed to renew his national champion title.
Philip Bass and Paiga Euro still the champion once more. Alan Hatherley second, Arnaud de Toy third, followed by Jan Vitar and Keegan Bontekonen. The Balwin Properties SA Champs hosted the inaugural short track championships.
The short track today. It's the first time in South Africa that we're having it, so short track is normally high intensity, so it's like one big interval.
Just 4 women lined up for 8 laps of the short sharp track, which measured 1.4 kilometers. 8 laps plus 1 was the format, for around 24 minutes of racing all told. Talented young Tyler Jacobs of Computer Mania took the lead, followed by fellow under-23 Andrea Schoffman, then Candice Lil and Sancho Milan. Lil surged into the lead on lap 2, and from then on she dictated a fearsome pace. Initially, there were 3 in the group. The Western Cape's Schoffman was first to succumb to the high pace and dropped off. This left Lil and Jacobs up front to fight it out. Lil, who's raced this format in the World Cup circuit, was super consistent. Her times were between 2 minutes and 49 seconds and 2:59 for all 7 laps. KwaZulu-Natal Jacobs managed 3 sub-3 minute laps as she fought hard to stay with the cross-country champion. But eventually it was Lil who opened up a handy lead that she steadily increased as the laps ticked by. At the bell for the final lap, the Seattle Coffee Roller Toyota King Price rider had around 45 seconds in hand over Computer Mania's Jacobs, who in turn was about a minute ahead of third place Schoffman of Cycling Friends. After 23 minutes and 46 seconds of high-paced short-track racing, it was Candice Lil who added another national champion's jersey to her collection. She now has the Marathon, Xco And Xcc jerseys in her cupboard. Great to see 2 under-23s on the podium. Tyler Jacobs second and Andrea Schoffman in third. The explosive men's race was next.
Awesome to have the short track format here in South Africa. Exciting to give it a test. It's a nice field with under-23s all together, so looking forward to a nice, hard, quick, short battle out there.
And away they went. Fantastic to see the under-23s and elites in one batch racing for one jersey over 8 high-octane laps. Among them was the reigning UCI World Cup champion Alan Hatherley. And you can bet there was no shortage of motivation amongst the rest to try and beat the Cannondale Factory rider at his own game. They set the pace, followed by the 23 stars Van Zyl and Luke Moyer. Hathely, Daniel van der Walt, Daniel van der Walt, Du Toit and Bontekoning, and all the rest. It was high-paced stuff. Each rider knew they had around 20 minutes to put in maximum effort around the short track. Eventually, a quintet got a gap up front. Base, Van Zyl, Moyer, Hathely and Du Toit. There was nothing between the five as they thrashed out laps at a blistering speed. They were lapping at between 2 minutes 22 and 2 minutes 45 for all 7 laps. A mix of experience in the 34-year-old Base and 30-year-old Du Toit. 27-year-old Hathely brings his international pedigree, and then the youth of under-23s Luke Moyer and Johan Van Zyl. A fascinating contest. There were surges and counter-surges, attacks and counter-attacks, but they could not be separated. It was thrilling stuff as the laps ticked by. The lead group had put big time into the rest of the field. So much so that Jason Mee had to step aside to allow them through on the 7th lap. There was no let-up. Ace did most of the front running, with Van Zyl never further than 2nd or 3rd. Hathely was biding his time as he watched his rivals fire off the watt bombs up front. They took the bell for the final lap together. It was going to come down to who had the 5-pound fuel in the tank for a final charge and the sprint finish. And it was Alan Hathely who timed his sprint to perfection off the final corner to take the win and redeem himself after his defeat in the Xco race a day earlier.
For 1 first, rider number 2 second, rider number 3 third. Meaning that yes, seeding 100% out of the book. What can we say? Well done, man.
It was a good, I think it was a good show for first one for South Africa, and yeah, glad for Alan, taking it. I think he's going to show off the jersey more the short course races. So yeah, I think it was a good day, and yeah, just a good weekend overall.
It's very good up here. But yeah, on the race, the guys had a really fast one. They were controlling the pace really well, and I was definitely not positioned the greatest in 4th wheel. It was quite tough. The stretch was quite big at times. I didn't know if I was going to get back on. Yeah, I just guess kind of with the bad positioning and the high pace set by the guys, and no real sitting up and looking at each other. I just had to really just be patient, and yeah, fortunately there was a bit of a gap at the end, and I just took a chance going a bit early, and yeah, coming into the final straight I managed to hold on to take the win, so yeah, happy with that.
Cannondale Factory Racing's Alan Hathely received the XCC Champions jersey from Paolo da Milano, CSA's MTB commissioner, to bring the curtain down on a superb 2 days of racing at Balwin Properties Thaba Trails and the South African Championships for 2023.